Hello and welcome to Digital Thangka Workshop. My name is Ben Christian. In Tibetan, my name is Jampe Dorje. I had some requests to talk about a new image that I'm working on that I posted on Facebook recently. So I thought just to make a quick video now describing where I'm up to and my reasons for painting this, choosing to paint this picture. And then also following on, I think I'd like to make a series of videos documenting the process up until the point where I'm finished with the Thangka. So I think that'd be an exciting project. It's a reasonably complex image, and there'll be a lot to learn. So hopefully, I'll release a video every couple of weeks as I have time, and we'll see how the work progresses. So at the moment, I'm up to the stage where I've done all the compositional work, and I've created a sketch, and I've converted that into a finished outline. So I'll show you that now, and I'll talk a little bit about the choices I've made in creating this Thangka. So here is where I'm up to with the image. So you can see it's a reasonably detailed image. For me in particular, I tend, tend to be fairly lazy, and I don't relish the idea of spending hours shading leaves and trees and birds and landscapes and things like that. But I want to add some more complexity in my work and try and emulate the beautiful, wonderful artists of the past who did such detailed, beautiful work, particularly in the Chinese style of Tibetan painting. So I'm working towards that. I'm only a beginning artist and I'm self-taught, so it's a long process to get that kind of mastery and beauty in your work, and I certainly hope to achieve that one day. And this image is just a step on that process. So it's a funny. I'll tell you a little bit about the image, and then we'll talk a little bit about the individual aspects. So believe it or not, I'm in a 4-month retreat at the moment, and about now we're almost 3 months into the retreat. So generally speaking, you'd never do um, art during a retreat. I'm doing a Mahamudra retreat, so you're meant to be doing Mahamudra, and you would also never, generally, never take your computer and do work on your computer. But this is an interesting retreat for me. It's more what I would call a lifestyle retreat. Um, for the first time in my life, I've done a lot of retreat, and I felt like I wanted to do some art, and it was important. This retreat's been very difficult for me. I've had a lot of obstacles, a lot of difficulty. The practice we're doing is Mahamudra, and so at the moment I spend not a lot of time. It's up to 6 hours a day meditating on Mahamudra, and then it's kind of coming out of winter here, so the nights are fairly long. So I spend a couple of hours each night working on this picture, or I have been for the last couple of weeks anyway. So that's kind of my day, and that for me. It's a very, like I said, you wouldn't ever call that a strict retreat, but I think of it more of a lifestyle retreat where you can do the things you love, but also do an amount of practice. And of course, your mind becomes very clear, and you can really reach the deities in very special ways, which is how this image came about. Um, I had a couple of weeks ago. I had I met this very, very important person almost 12 months ago now. She's a very amazing person, meant a lot to me. Very, 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 very important person to me. And so, maybe 2, 3 weeks ago, I had this vision, and it's not like a big thing, or you know, the deity came to me or something like that, but I just had this vision one day, and it was a simple thing, but it changes your heart. And I, as an artist, it's hard to look away or turn away from that experience. And so you have to, in many ways, you have to paint. You have to express what you saw that day. And so this image is about that. It's about trying to capture what this beautiful person that I have in my life means to me. Secondly, the image is also a little bit. It's a little bit of like you'd call a, if you're doing the four powers, it's like a makeup activity for negative deeds. So one of the preliminary practices is maybe preliminary practices can involve uh, Mundro, for example. And then there's lesser versions of Mundro, which some of them involve things like making tsatsas or replicating holy images. So in that context, art could be seen as a preliminary practice or a purification process. And instead of maybe doing 100,000 Vajrasattva mantras, you could do tsatsas or create images. And then, of course, as artists, we don't have to. We have the creative ability to make an actual work. We don't have to replicate something like a tsatsa. You can do a work from scratch. And so that's part of my motivation. And that was to largely to heal some very negative karma that I've collected in the past. I had some very had a lot of negative thoughts towards one particular guru that I had, and that guru gave me the green Tara empowerment, and I've been carrying that karma with me for so long, and it only brings suffering, those negative thoughts, and so this painting is a lot of about my process um, to meet green Tara, but also to repair negative actions that I've done in the past. So, I'm, as you can tell, I'm fairly heavily invested in this image in a spiritual way, and that's what it means to be a spiritual artist. It's not just, luckily for us, no one, for me, no one buys or commissions me to do anything. So it's not like I'm motivated by money to create this picture, or I don't, have students that want me to teach them or anything like that. It's just there's no worldly motivation to create a thangka for me. It's just it's a spiritual process. And of course, I wouldn't ever say that my motivation is perfect. It's far from that. There's many, we're all heavily invested in other people's opinions and praise and, the eight worldly thoughts. So I'm certainly not claiming that I'm immune from that. In fact, it motivates the majority of my actions. However, here we have a picture, and so we'll talk a little bit about what I wanted to capture. So this day that I had this experience with green Tara, it, the place I'm doing retreat at the moment is it's a mountainside. It's very foresty. It's a deep spiritual place. And one day I was just walking through the trees, and it was what I wanted to capture was how we do a lot of practice where we recite mantras. We're trying to meet the deity all the time, and we have ideas of when it will come or how it will come. But what happens is you just stumble across it one day, and that's what I wanted to capture here. So here in the image, I have green Tara, and I wanted it to be very enclosed and very almost claustrophobic in a sense, like a grotto or a grove or something like that. It's like you'd waded yourself through some trees and some thicket, and suddenly you come onto this scene where the deity exists. And that's, I think, how we experience it if we meet the deities. And so I have this, I have these vines, and everything is very close together. There's not a lot of spatial distance between the elements, and I'm trying to create some depth in this thangka so that you feel as though you're drawn into her existence, into her world, into meeting her. Um, and so they're sort of concepts that occur to your mind at that time. But to bring them into a Thangka is a different matter. So whether this will be successful, we'll have to see. So yeah, that's the vibe I'm looking for. I'm looking for a very sacred, enclosed, intimate interaction between the viewer or the meditator and any Buddha really, but in particular here it's Green Tara. So looking at the scene, we'll zoom in a little bit. So down the bottom here I have this the foreground scene that leads the eye into the picture. We have over here on this side there's the Chinese phoenix. And so the Chinese phoenix, from Robert Beer's wonderful book, he says represents the most compassionate of birds, the kindest of birds. Very like a very beautiful state of mind within this bird. And so this particular pose and bird was taken from quite a famous series of Thangkas from the Arhat series. So again, it has that Chinese influence. And I've copied that almost directly from that Thangka. I've made some adjustments to the tail and to the pose of the bird so that it fits with the image that I've got. But the actual reference piece for that is in a very fine collection of paintings of the 16 Arhats. Then there's just some simple rock formation in the foreground, just to create that sense of depth that I was talking about, where you, the viewer, sits on the edge of this scene and you're drawn in, you meet the deity in that way. I have this this vine motif that continues throughout the picture. That stylization of the lotus vine is taken from a Mongolian Thangka that I happen to own a copy of. Then we have some, these are some banana leaves off to the side, just creating a little bit of foliage. I'll imagine I'll add some small details like some grasses and some moss in these areas as the painting progresses, but they're not something that you do in the sketch. They're just things that you add in later. Then we have the main pool or body of water here, and from that grows the main lotus stem upon which Green Tara sits. So the main lotus is fairly obscured here. The secondary lotus, which she rests her beautiful foot upon, is slightly different. That's an unusual way of drawing that lotus, and I'll show you the picture that I took that from. I'm not so into personally the many of the images of Green Tara where you just have a lotus sort of put on its side. Never quite looks right to me. I want the lotus to be more flat, and this the idea of that gesture is that she's getting up to help people. So I just like it to be more flat and more of a realistic platform for her foot to stand up and to help other beings. Then of course down here there's more stylized lotus petals and flowers. And then here going upwards we can see the background. This is just the edge of the pool of water. What I've done here is, what I'm hoping to experiment with this image is a similar use of depth that you create when you take a photograph with depth of field, meaning there's a plane of focus and then things recede into the background. They become less sharp. They also become less contrasty, and generally in color-wise they become cooler in tone. It's called atmospheric perspective. It's a way that you can use color and contrast to bring depth to the image. So because this image is so complex, there needs to be distinctions made between the planes, meaning foreground, the main deity, midground and background. And I'm hoping to achieve that by adding elements of blur, which is kind of it's a modern thing you know, to do with an actual taking a photograph. But I think it'll work out okay here. You do see it in the old traditional thangkas, in the more Chinese styled ones, which, as I said, are the ones I like. In those, the artist achieves it by they don't use any outlining in the landscape, and so the outline is very sorry, the landscape, the background is kind of very soft and fuzzy and very gently rendered, and that's a way that they've used in the past of keeping the foreground objects sharp, and then the background objects, which are important compositionally, but they don't want to be, you know, stabbing you in the eye. They need to be receding into the background. So we're going to do a little bit of that blurring. The same goes for this tree that's at the top. So let's see if I can find my tree layer. Okay, so if I turn off the tree layer, you can see a little bit more clearly. So there's the tree, and that's without it. So the background, I want it to be more like a forest. I'm not intending to do, unless I need it later composition, I'm not intending to have a very complex background, but I may just copy some trees and have them quite subtly in the background, because I don't want her to be in an open environment. I want her to be in an enclosed, cool, beautiful green forest. And so I may not even do the sky. The sky may be green in this, for example. I have done some clouds, which you can see there. But whether I add a sky or not, we'll just have to see how the painting feels. The willow tree, if I reduce the opacity of it, you'll see how that will recede into the background, and that's more of the effect. That's how it will be in the thangka. It'll be, you know, it'll be a minor element, but it'll be important. Okay. While talking about the tree, so I've saved myself some work with that tree. That's something that I painted in a previous thangka, so I didn't have to do that from scratch. Again, that's this tree I've taken from, stylized from a Mongolian thangka, which are a different thangka to the ones I was referring to before, but where this stylized pattern of foliage occurs. So for me, I like this tree because it reminds me of the trees, a particular tree that we have here on the land where I'm doing retreat in Australia. So as I said, I've painted that before. I can show that to you. So this saves you work. So the more digitally, the more thangkas you create, the more of your own reference material you have, which you don't have to paint and shade again. You can just use it. So there's that tree. So there you can see the way I've treated the trunk, the bark, and then the shading of the tree there. In my image, I'll probably get rid of the outline, so it'll be much more soft. I don't think I'll need to rely on the outline. This is Agni, by the way, if you're interested. So this thangka is with a Naga here. This is one of the burial grounds from Highest Yoga Tantra, the southeastern burial ground. And in that burial ground, you can see there's a corpse there. There's a dog or a jackal here to the side, which I've cropped out. And then there's a specific Naga that lives in each burial ground. There's a specific tree and a specific deity which presides over that burial ground, like the protector of that burial ground. And they're important to practitioners of Highest Yoga Tantra. And each of these has a deep symbolic meaning. The tree, for example, represents the central channel, and each of these aspects is meditated on by the practitioner. Let's have a look at the thangka that I'm basing this on. So this is the thangka that I'm using for inspiration. This is very beautiful old thangka, and I love the depth to this image and the dark, cool quality that it has. So this is the feel that I'm hoping to create with my image. You can see the beautiful lotus here. absolutely gorgeous, the way it's been rendered. So I'm hoping to learn that rendering pattern. I've not used that before, so I'm hoping to learn that. And then here is the lotus cushion that I was talking about. I'll try and zoom in on that a little bit for you. This is the slightly different lotus. Okay. So, as I was saying, the main thing I want to get in this picture is this atmospheric perspective or depth. I'm thinking I may even have some blurred elements in the foreground, but we'll just have to see if that works. That's going to be going pretty far out in terms of a traditional style, but maybe we'll see how that works. So this image is complex. It has a lot going on. There's a lot of greenery down here, a lot of foliage, and just to give you an idea, it takes. Let's talk about the tree again, for example. It takes as long to do a tree, or much longer. Let's talk about colouring and rendering the main figure. That takes me about 2 hours maybe. And it takes about 10 to do a tree. So the more elements you add to the landscape, you end up getting into this situation where you have a lot of work and a lot of complexity. So to manage the complexity in this picture in a digital sense, what I've done is I've broken it down into different sections. So let's have a look at the sections. So first we've got the background. So that's how I've treated the background. So I'll render the water on this picture. I'll render the little earth wall here. The tree trunk, as I said, I've already done. The clouds, if I choose to use them, and then I've got this blank spot here that's for Amitabha Buddha, who is related to Tara. I've done a little bit of work on the background, so this is kind of just the basic gradient that I'll use to build the image on. So I want to have some light cast in this area. I want to illuminate this area. Whether I do the water blue or green, we'll have to see. But if you keep watching the tutorials, you'll see those decisions being made. And to be honest, I mean, this is just this is just some early ideas. It's more than likely I'll abandon this idea completely. There's a lot of decisions have to be made between now and finishing the picture. Here's my tree. So that's how the tree will fit in. Then we've got the Buddha. So the colours are clashing there a little bit, but I'll resolve all of that as we go, of course. Just for interest, this is the lotus which I've already finished. We did that in a previous tutorial series. So the lotus that I showed how to draw and render and the shading, I've already done. All I've done is just change the colours. It's just going to be probably a single coloured pink lotus. And then you can see with Amitabha Buddha, I've just started doing some basic colouring work there. So I've got a colour for the skin, and that's basically it. And then the upper halo, and I'll keep adding to that as we go. So that's the background. This is the foreground. So I've just chosen a very simple picture here. So this section of the image won't take long. So again, these are all separate files, and you complete each separate picture, and then Photoshop composites them. If you make it transparent, Photoshop will composite them as objects, things called smart objects, and they'll all fit together seamlessly to create your finished image. And it just means that you're not working on something that's overly complex and getting out of hand. If I tried to paint this picture with one file, I'd need probably 100 layers and probably as many channels, probably 100 channels as well. So it's too much, and the file size gets out of hand, and it becomes so complex that you spend a lot of time searching for layers, and it's much easier once you know how smart objects work. It's much easier to break the picture down into elements. and particularly if you want to do a very large complex Thangka, which I'm hoping to work towards, I think that's going to be a necessary process to do very complex images. Okay, so there's the foreground. There's our phoenix. Here's some banana leaves, courtesy of Robert Beer. All I've done there is taken one of the banana leaves and I've just copied it. So that's one leaf copied and transformed. So again, saving myself some work there. Hopefully, when they're all in different sizes, different, pointing in different directions, you don't notice so much that they're the same thing. And it also creates a bit of, stylistic integrity to keep repeating patterns like that. Okay, now here's the central figure. So this is the main part of the image. So that's how I'll break that up. And there's this beautiful frieze of lotuses around the central figure with many flowers. I haven't drawn the flowers in. This is a lotus bud, for example. I'll do those separately and I'll add them later. That's really just there as a placeholder at the moment. Here we have green Tara. So this is how I've chosen to render green Tara. She has these earrings, which are somewhat unusual in that they don't pass. They don't have a hole that the earlobe goes through. They're studded to the back. The crown here has, this is Kirti Mukha, or maybe Garuda Mukha, means like the face of glory, centrally on the crown here. Then the lotus here with three different lotuses shown. There's the fully budded lotus, a partially budded lotus, and then a lotus before it blooms. And they represent three aspects of the path. Then there's this beautiful jewellery which I took from the Thangka that I showed you before. So again, here I've drawn just one bead and I've copied it multiple times, just changing the direction of it so it doesn't quite look like it's the same. The jewellery is the same. I only ever draw one part. Like this part, for example, is then copied to here. This is copied to there, and then you get that nice symmetry, and it saves you a lot of work, obviously. To draw the beads, you create a brush, which is just a circle, and then you just add each bead with one dot of your brush. The jewellery, I drew one bracelet, and then I copied it to the armband here. So that's again just drawing one thing. So you can tell I've done that when you look at the thickness of the line here compared to that. And then really it's just a matter of arranging the individual aspects of the jewellery so that it fits correctly. So this element here had to be tilted, for example. Then down here, when I was drawing the belt, again, all I did, I just drew half of this and then I copied it and transformed it to the other side. So you can see here, for example, where that's sort of squashed by doing the transformation. That's the original side, and then it's kind of squashed in perspective. Again, I just drew one element here and copied it. These were difficult to get the correct foreshortening of these as they pass around the foot. You can't, when you have to do something from scratch like that, you can't make it too realistic, because Thangkas aren't realistic in terms of the way that would mould around the foot. They're generally quite flat in their perspective. So you have to sort of draw get a balance between making something realistic and keeping it stylistic, because if you do it in a realistic way, it'll just stand out as being stylistically incorrect. Again, we've spoken about the lotus. Here, this is a little, the distance between the surface of the lotus and the lotus petals is larger than you would normally see, so that's something a little bit different with this Thangka. That's about it. I've chosen not to add offerings. Normally you would have offerings to the senses at the bottom of the Thangka, or some other form of offering. I checked a lot of Thangkas, and I mean, normally you actually have that, but a lot of a lot of the Thangkas I did in my research for this didn't have that. And so here there's just simply 3 little jewels or wish-giving jewels. And that's the offerings that are made by the artist to the deity. And I'm hoping that the beauty of the image will be an offering in itself, and that it's not a negative karma to leave out that more extensive offering that you see in a lot of Thangkas. So you just have to think about that as artists. So that's all. What things did I change with? So there's many ways Green Tara is drawn. So in some traditions she has a lotus here. In some traditions she has an extra scarf wrapped around the body. In some traditions there's like a little, I don't know the term, it's like a little crop top that goes above the breasts here. So I chose to leave all of those things out and follow that Thangka that I said I was inspired by, which just has her naked other than the jewellery. So you can see if I remove the jewellery, she really is quite naked, but when the jewellery is added, it becomes something very beautiful. And of course, I was very inspired by my friend, who was also very beautiful physically in this Thangka, particularly the face. Okay, so that's it for the central figure. Here we have Amitabha or Amitabha Buddha, and he's the Buddha of the family with which Green Tara is associated with. So he will be at the top of the Thangka, and this I used one of my own previous images of Shakyamuni Buddha for the face, so I copied that, and then the main body I took from I think it's called the Sun Learning book. I can't remember exactly the name, but that had a very beautiful example of Amitabha Buddha. And then the lotus, as I said, was from a previous tutorial that we did. So we'd already drawn that. And then the last thing is just this vine, this sort of filigree motif. And that's going to be in the foreground, and that's going to be, I added that element, or I want that element to create that sense of enclosure and intimacy between the viewer and the deity. So when I add all of those things together, we come up with this, and that's our finished picture. So I'll begin. I've started work. I'm not working particularly quickly. Like I said, I only do 2 hours a day on this. Normally, if I was drawing, I'd be doing 12 hours a day. But I'm just doing a little bit in the afternoons, and but the work will progress. Like I've got nothing else planned, right? I'm in retreat, so we'll just keep working at it. And as I progress, I'll post videos. They won't be very complex, I don't think, because I am in retreat and I don't really want to be making videos at the moment. And but as the work progresses, I can post things on Facebook and things like that, and that won't bother me too much. And one of the beautiful things about retreat is we're meant to be caring and loving all beings and wanting their happiness and for them not to suffer. And so for me, if I can draw a picture and I can put it on Facebook and people see it and it brings them happiness, and just seeing the deity reduces their suffering. So it's a way of actualizing the prayer, and it's actually very, very important to me as a meditator to be able to do that and to be able to offer that to the world. All the people that will potentially benefit from this. It's an immensely happy and beautiful thing. Sometimes when you're in retreat, you just, day after day and just with your mind, and it can become very hard. And sometimes you feel like you're just helping no one. As a bodhisattva, you're there and you're meditating and you're very self-obsessed. So it's very beautiful to do something that actually helps people. So for me, this is a beautiful process to do during retreat. And when I put things on Facebook and people like it and they send it to their friends and whatever, that's so beautiful to me. And that's why I want these things to be free and available, and a resolution that you can look at and print if you want. So anyway, that's my gift to you. I hope you like it. I hope you enjoy this video series that's coming. It should be hopefully exciting. It will be frustrating because generally, you know, it's not easy to make a thangka, and there's a lot of it's a battle really. There's a lot more failure than success, but I'm happy to document the failures as they come along, because that's part of the process, right? You have you know, you battle with the image, and sometimes you're just losing, and you can't get a decent picture. But then eventually, you know, you work out what's wrong and you resolve the composition or the color or whatever's holding you up, and it'll become beautiful. I'm happy with the composition in this. I've just got to resolve the color now and try and bring the deity into the image. That's kind of the hardest thing. But I think I'm some of the way there. Anyway, I hope you like it. Take care. I hope you're happy, and I hope you don't suffer. And do whatever you can to change your mind and be as good a person as you can be. Okay.